Unveiling the Viking Mystique. When the fearsome raiders met Portugal's shores. In the 9th century AD, Vikings from Scandinavia began raiding and exploring lands across Europe by sea. One of the areas they traveled to was the Iberian Peninsula, which today includes Portugal. The Vikings first arrived in the region of Galicia in northwest Spain in 844 AD. They raided towns along the coastline and traveled inland via rivers with their iconic longships. The Vikings continued to mount raids along Portugal's northern coast and into the Douro and Tagus river valleys over the next few decades. While feared for their raiding, the Vikings also engaged in trade with local populations. They exchanged goods like furs, amber, and slaves for silver, wine, and other valuables. Some Vikings even settled permanently in the region. Evidence of the Viking presence in Portugal comes from archaeological finds like 11th century Viking graves uncovered in Porto. The graves contained swords, spearheads, and other weapons and artifacts of Scandinavian origin. Ship burials in the style of Viking funerals have also been found along the Portuguese coast. The Vikings gave several place names to coastal regions and rivers in Portugal that survive today. One of the most frequently cited examples is the name Gunderedo, a Latinization of Gunrouter or Gunrod, which may have given rise to some Portuguese place names and even surnames, suggesting a possible Nordic colonization in the Iberian Peninsula. Gunderedo would also be the name of the Viking leader responsible for the largest attack on Iberian territory in the late 10th century. The Viking raids and exploration declined by the 11th century as they focused more on settling northern and eastern Europe, as the Iberian Peninsula was already a war-torn scene and continued to be so after the Viking Age. Any local or regional impact was overshadowed by later events. People may have been traumatized, but after a decade or two, there began to be attacks by the Muslims. The encounters with Vikings left a lasting impact on Portugal and connections between Scandinavia and southern Europe. Maybe that's why Portuguese love codfish?